Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here with a quick update in the United States Northern District of Illinois versus Robert Sylvester Kelly. There was a hearing today on the motion for Steve Greenberg, Mike Leonard, and then there was another attorney, Groman, who I believe is in the office with Steve Greenberg. But as you guys know, they filed a motion to withdraw from the case. And so the hearing today basically confirmed and approved that they could withdraw from the case. On the call was attorney BonJean, who is handling the Eastern District of New York appeals process, post-trial motions to either get the judgments vacated or the verdicts vacated, or to get a new trial. And also, if that fails, then she will actually take an appeal, make an appeal to the Second Circuit to have the whole thing overturned. So now that Leonard, Greenberg, and Groman have been approved to be removed from the case, to withdraw from the case, Jennifer BonJean is now going to be lead counsel on R. Kelly's defense in the Northern District of Illinois. And so on the call, was the three attorneys that want to withdraw, Jennifer BonJean, and then Mr. Kelly appeared, via phone. And he was only asked two questions, which was basically, do you want to get rid of these lawyers? He said, yes, Your Honor. And then he was asked, do you want Ms. BonJean to be your new attorney? And he said, yes, Your Honor. So there is going to be a status hearing on March 15th, I believe at 8 o'clock in the morning, to get Ms. BonJean caught up on the case. She did state to the state attorneys, the United States attorneys, assistant attorneys that are handling the case. The lead attorney is Shay Jackson. And so they are going to meet, offline, make sure that she gets all of the discovery. Steve Greenberg, I thought it was interesting, did state that he would prefer that the government provide the discovery instead of his office providing this discovery. And that could be for two reasons. One, he don't have this discovery, right? He never opened the discovery, which is pretty much on a disk. Or he just wants to make sure that down the road, if something comes up during the trial and the government states that they have evidence and Ms. BonJean doesn't have that evidence, that it doesn't fall back on him. So everyone agreed that it was best that the government resubmit all discovery to Ms. BonJean and not depend on Greenberg to give her that information. And I agree that is a good idea. And then they also mentioned that there was some form of overlap in discovery. So that could be an issue in terms of double jeopardy, where, they're saying that discovery and information that was used in the Eastern District of New York was also included in the discovery for the case in Illinois. I really don't know what the significance of that is, because you guys know I don't have a law degree, okay? But I'm just assuming that that is some kind of legal technicality that could potentially come up if they use something that happened in New York and also use it in Illinois. Maybe they might try to use it for different purposes. I'm not sure, but it definitely was something that came up, that there was some overlap in evidence or testimony or something that was going on that needed their attention. So as it stands, Jennifer BonJean is now the lead attorney on the Northern District of Illinois. She is going to meet with Shay Jackson, who is the Assistant United States Attorney in the Northern District of Illinois. They're going to get her caught up to speed on what's going on. There was some mention, or let me finish that thought, on what's going on. Then there's going to be a status hearing on March 15th, tentatively on March 15th. And then they'll continue with the next status hearing, which is to take place, I believe, May 25th, I believe they said. And so the other issue that came up was regarding the August trial date. Now, you guys remember in the Eastern District of New York, Greenberg withdrew, him and his team withdrew from the Eastern District of New York case like a month prior to trial starting. And that was one of the big issues with him not being able to with Mr. Kelly not being able to have an adequate defense. And the judge in that case, Judge Ann Donnelly, she pointed out that I'm not going to delay this trial. Like you're not going to be able to file an appeal on ineffective counsel because you had the opportunity to keep the attorneys that's been working on your case all this time. But we know that they weren't really working on the case. And I'm not going to say they weren't really working on the case. We're going to say Greenberg wasn't working on the case, because I truly believe that Mike Leonard wanted to be on this case. He wanted to represent Mr. Kelly. And I also believe that Mike Leonard would have done a good job, but we don't know what was going on behind the scenes that was preventing him from actually doing his part. And so I really believe that Mike Leonard was there for Mr. Kelly, but he was brought on by Greenberg. He was, I guess, being paid by Greenberg, so he really couldn't overstep that relationship and try to take over the case, because then I guess that would have affected their working relationship down the line. So the Judge Lebenweber, I believe is how you pronounce his name, basically raised the concern that this case is going to trial in August, and he asked Ms. BonJean if she was okay with that. She said that, yeah, I know it starts in August, but you could tell there was some hesitation, and that she may down the line ask for a continuance. And I believe that Mr. Lebenweber will give her a continuance, because he's been pretty flexible throughout this whole process. But the concern that he raised about continuing this case again is that this case isn't just about Mr. Kelly. This case also involves two other co-defendants, and we know that those two other co-defendants is this guy. Oh my God, I don't even have my paperwork here with me with the names of the two other people, but you guys know the one is the guy June, who has been very ill over the past year or so, and he lives in Las Vegas, I believe. And so we don't even know if he's going to make it to trial, because I believe he has had some serious health issues. And then the other one was the guy who was his accountant, Daryl McDavid. So those are the two people. Now, the June guy probably doesn't care if they continue the case, because like I say, he has health issues. He has other things that he needs to worry about and deal with at this moment. But Daryl McDavid, like, his whole life has been disrupted by this. I don't even know if he still has his practice or his business that, he had, but he wants this case over with. He is like, enough is enough. And surprisingly, he hasn't turned on R. Kelly as become a witness for the government to like throw R. Kelly under the bus, take a plea deal, and get on with his life. He wants to go to trial in this case. And so that would be the only concern. But I believe that behind the scenes, Jennifer BonJean is going to meet with Daryl McDavid's attorneys and see if there is a possibility to, if she needs to delay this case or request a delay in the case, that they would be in agreement for that. And so that would be the only thing that would hinder them, is if his attorneys is like, no, we need to go to trial. My client needs to get on with his life. But I suspect that we may see yet another continuance in the Northern District of Illinois, because Ms. BonJean is going to be busy working on these appeals. And, if Ann Donnelly, doesn't grant the new trial, doesn't vacate, some or all of these verdicts, then, she has to prepare to take this case to the Second Circuit of Appeals. And so I don't see how she can adequately prepare for a August trial date when you're talking about another case with like 5 or 6 people in the case, that are accusing him of, misconduct and whatnot. And plus the Illinois case has far more implications than the New York case. And the reason the New York case even went first was because they had to set the groundwork for the Illinois case to make it easier, because I think it's going to be harder. It would have been harder to get convictions in the Illinois case based on the charges and the accusations against him. So it was easier to get the conviction in New York because they use RICO and they use the Mann Act, which are charges that they can manipulate and, create. They had a lower burden to prove those charges. And so now that they've set the groundwork, they put it in the minds of the jurors, the potential jurors in the Illinois case, that, hey, he was found guilty of similar charges in the Eastern District of New York. Therefore, he must be guilty in the Northern District of Illinois case. And so that's going to make their burden, which was a very high burden in the Illinois case, that's lowering the bar now that they have these convictions in New York. And so Jennifer BonJean has a lot of work ahead of her. Totally different situation, because I believe all of the alleged victims in the Northern District of Illinois case is dealing with underage girls that are claiming they were 15, 16, whereas in New York, they were 17. And so what they had to do in New York basically was get Ariel Clary and Geronda Pace on to even have brought those charges in New York. And so now you're talking about a different beast, because the age of consent in Chicago is 17. And in Chicago, they have brought in these girls who are now saying that they were 14, 15, 16 years old when they met Mr. Kelly. So they're below the age of consent threshold. And also in Illinois, the age of consent is 17. It doesn't matter if the person is 18 or 80. If you are 17, you can consent to have sex with someone older than you. Whereas in most other states, there's like a range. So it'll say, okay, the age of consent is 17, but the person can't be more than 2 years older. So I hope you guys understand like the differences and the burden of proof that they're going to have to show in Illinois, proving that he actually had sex with any of these women. I would expect to see more coming out of Sony, like what was Sony involvement in paying off the settlements? What was Sony's connection to forcing Mr. Kelly to sign these non-disclosure agreements with these girls to pay them off? What was the burden of proof that Sony needed, to make these settlements, or for McDavid to pay off these settlements to these girls? So the Northern District of Illinois is going to be a totally different beast. And I just believe that Miss BonJean, with all that's on her plate, also defending Mr. Cosby in two lawsuits that are coming up in the next coming months, and then possible charges, federal charges coming against Mr. Cosby that she's going to have to defend. She's going to have a whole lot on her plate that I hope her and her team, she has a law firm that's bigger than Steve Greenberg, so she will have the extra help, the investigators, the different resources that Greenberg obviously didn't have to help her. But I just don't see her being able to go to trial with Mr. Kelly in August. So expect to see at least a request for a delay, if not an actual delay in that trial. So guys, that's it for me. I'm going to go ahead and end this here. Go ahead. Oh, and one more thing. Ms. BonJean is supposed to file her motion to Ann Donnelly by tomorrow. So I will be back once that is loaded to Pacer. I will be bringing you guys that information. So be prepared. Things are starting to tick up again in the R. Kelly cases. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to bring you guys the same coverage that I brought to you during the Eastern District of New York case. So now, if all minds are clear, go ahead, leave your comments, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.